Come on in, guys. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the cast of Survivor Season 41. You've undoubtedly already seen plenty of cast analyses and predictions from some of the other great Survivor content creators out there. And while I initially thought it would be entertaining to analyze these same clips and interviews, I realized later that it would actually be more fun for me to go through each member of the new cast and assign them an award instead. Think of these like the awards you vote on in senior year of high school. If that's even a thing anymore, it probably isn't. But instead of most likely to succeed, we'll be handing out awards like the Jacob Derwin Award for most likely superfan to implode by day 3, or the Keith Nail Award for most likely to be a surprise challenge beast.
Ball savviness.
Don't worry though, you'll also get my guaranteed to be accurate analysis of where most of these 18 players will place along the way. I'm using Mike Bloom's great interviews for Parade.com as the basis of my analysis and awards, so go check out the interviews for yourself, give him a clicker 18, and let me know your thoughts. All that said, let's kick off the first annual Idled Out Cast Awards for the Season 41 cast. Let's start with the Luvu tribe, rockin' the blue. And what better way to start than with the coveted Wendy Jo Award for most likely to be first boot. That's going to 36-year-old sales manager Nasir Mutalif. Nasir's got an amazing and inspiring story. He grew up in Sri Lanka before eventually moving to California, taught himself English, and worked his way up in the world, from selling produce on the side of the road to making million-dollar sales in the hospitality industry. But I really think Nasir is going to be in trouble early. In interviews, he comes off as a bit too eager, and I think in a small tribe of 6, that might rub some people the wrong way really early on. Plus, comparing yourself to Philip Shepard isn't exactly screaming tribal harmony to me. I think if this tribe can avoid tribal for a few rounds, he could get into a pretty good spot, given his actual outdoor skills. I want to see Nasir around for a long time, but my Wendy Jo senses are tingling. Winning the Ali Elliott Award for most likely to be the pre-merge robbed goddess of the season is Erica Kasupian, 32-year-old communications manager and our only Canadian currently living in Canada on the cast. Every season, guys, every season there's a young woman who's a huge fan, fun personality, good player, and just ends up on the wrong side of a swap or the pointy end of some overthinking allies. It happened to Wentworth her first time around, and since then we've had Michaela, Allie, Rourke, Stephanie, Chelsea, the list goes on. You can trace the roots of this archetype back to at the time beloved pre-merger Gina Cruz in Survivor Marquesas, who still has the record for most confessionals from someone voted out before the merge. I like Erica a lot. She's a huge fan of the show, prides herself on her manipulation skills, and idolizes Todd Herzog. All things presumably that Michaela, Allie, Rourke, Stephanie, and Chelsea liked too. The winner of the Keith Tollefson Award for most likely to quietly be the merge boot is 33-year-old ex-NFL player Danny McRae. I mean, this guy is just classic merge boot material. Strong, loyal, dependable, honest, hardworking guy whose virtues will be rewarded with a max 10th or 11th place finish. Danny just seems like the kind of guy where it would be very easy to form a consensus boot around the first time post-merge that he's vulnerable. To his credit though, Danny does however know he's a threatening target, and hopes to redefine what that means on the show. So he wants to pin the target on the puzzle doers and social butterflies who usually end up winning Survivor. If he's successful at deflecting the target and turning his threat level down, he might just be able to pull it off. But I don't know, can you really turn this off? Winner of the Culpepper Award for most likely to get 1 to 3 votes at Final Tribal Council is 52-year-old stay-at-home mom Heather Aldret. Heather seems surprisingly well-equipped to succeed at this game. She's been through a lot of hardships in her life, escaping a broken home, making her way through life on her own, liking Tasha in Survivor Cambodia, but tough experiences can only make you a better Survivor player, in theory. Obviously, Heather's a bit of a fish out of water as the oldest person on her tribe, but I'm hoping she'll be able to naturally connect with some of the under 40s that she's stranded with. Even still, Heather has final tribal loser written all over her. From Lisa to Julie to Dawn to Missy, the quote-unquote mom of the season is often written off at tribal council and doesn't get the game credit they deserve. Okay, not so much Missy, but I stand by the rest.
Excuse me?
Heather's on a pretty stacked tribe physically and seems likable enough to get to the merge, but I'm getting pretty strong second place final 3 loser vibes. The War Dog Award for Most Forced to Nickname goes to Deshaun Radin, a 26-year-old medical student. Okay, before I catch any heat, just let me say that this guy is so charming, and I'll be absolutely shocked if he doesn't go far. I know he's got a lot of pregame fans, and for good reason. My man maxed out his charisma stats for sure. Deshaun really wants to play an upfront game to people's faces, and then drag them in confessionals, otherwise known as playing to the cameras. And to go along with that, he's even got his own moniker ready, Devious D-Rad. I mean, it's alright, but it's a bit Walmart brand Devilish Davy, you know? I mean, it's even got the whole alliterative double D thing going on. He'll undoubtedly be dropping Devious D-Rad in the confessionals every chance he gets, no question there. But what are the odds he says hashtag Devious D-Rad? I'm guessing 2 to 1. The Abby Maria Award for Most Likely to Cause Chaos is obviously going to 26-year-old law student Sydney Segal. You've only got one chance to get rid of this type of player, folks. One chance. And there's no way Sydney's going first from this tribe. If you don't take out this chaotic player at their first tribal council, they catch the Hot Mess Express straight to the end game. And if Hurricane Sydney actually plays the type of game she says she's going to, chaotic, loyalty-free, clothing optional, she's going straight to Final 5 easily, leaving a path of destruction and bitter jurors in her wake. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch Sydney play. Her answer to how are you underestimated is I'm actually overestimated. I mean... Moving on to the yellow Yase tribe, let's talk about 35-year-old neurosurgeon David Voce, my pick to win the Drew Christie Award for Most Likely to be an Early Flameout. Here's what's gonna happen with this guy. He's gonna ask that Jeff call him by his last name. He's gonna try and play an overly aggressive game like Russell Hantz, and his tribe is going to boot him ASAP. One of this guy's biggest pet peeves is lack of self-awareness. Then he goes on to say that he will play the game like Russell, Natalie Anderson, Wentworth, and Sari, and that his final tribal council will rival the likes of Todd Herzog's. I mean, you just can't write this stuff. In a post-Kagayan world, it's hard for me to imagine smart players letting someone playing this hard, this fast, anywhere near the end, but stranger things have happened, I guess. However, I think David's going to be a gloriously overplaying pre-merge train wreck a la Garrett or Drew, and I've got my ticket stamped and I'm ready to board. The winner of the Michaela Bradshaw Award for Most Likely to Have a Trillion Gifts Made of Them is 28-year-old PhD student Evie Jagoda. Evie's a newer fan of the show, starting during David vs. Goliath, but it sounds like she's basically spent the last 3 years binging Survivor. I mean, there are worse ways to spend 3 years. Just ask Richard Hatch. I'm not sure I really see a lengthy stay in the game for Evie, but I do see the Survivor tag in Giphy being flooded with gifs of her in about 3 weeks from right now. Evie's got a very low tolerance for BS. I mean, her answer to what is your biggest pet peeve is just men. Well, that is fair. Combine that with her undoubtedly being the Twitter favorite, her really expressive face, and her no-nonsense approach to interacting with her tribe mates, and that means we're going to see a lot of Evie gifs in our future. The winner of the Tom Laidlaw Award for Most Likely to be Way Too Loyal is Eric Abraham, a 51-year-old cybersecurity professional. This guy's definitely got the most old-school approach to the game, and I think that will either make him a wonderful, loyal alliance partner for someone, or more likely, a very early boot. Eric's just Tom Laidlaw 2, who was Joe Del Campo 2, who was Rick Nelson 2, who was Jerry Sims 2, and on, back to the beginning of time. Every few seasons, there's a guy over 40 who's loyal to a fault and either goes out pre-merge or rides his ride or die to the final 6. Even the players he compares himself to, James and Ethan, were very alliance-oriented, don't rock the boat type of players. Eric seems like a nice guy, but I think for a cast that's been waiting a year and a half to play this game, chomping at the bit to get in there and make big moves, Eric's "let's just win challenges guys" energy is gonna get him a solid 3rd or 4th boot finish. The Sierra Dawn Thomas Award for most likely to be a future WTF returnee goes to 20-year-old college student Liana Wallace. Liana wants to play a really sly Survivor game. I think on paper, she's got a good strategy. Let people come to her with names, if someone votes for you, don't blow up, play up the bubbly side of her personality to lower her threat level. If she can actually put these principles into action, she's going to skate through this game rather easily. However, I worry that she might not stick out enough in this cast to make a big impression either on the other players or the audience at home. And this is kind of unrelated, but what's up with this Tony meets Elaine strategy she's gonna be running? Did you just pick the names of 2 popular players out of a hat? These are very different strategies. And then everything she says is about treating Survivor like a marathon, and then she name drops Tony, notorious for playing Survivor like a marathon and not a constant sprint. Anyway, I expect Liana will go far, probably not be a huge fan favorite or terribly memorable, but someone production sees a lot of future potential in, and who shockingly shows up again on Game Changers 2, alongside, I don't know, Kellen and Gavin or something. The Coach Award for most likely to be completely delusional goes to Xander Hastings, 21-year-old app developer. What's up with this guy? He seems to switch from fratty bro to first-year philosophy student with each answer. Regardless, I cannot wait to hear the pseudo-intellectual babble that's gonna come out of this guy's mouth, though I doubt we'll hear it for long. Can I just quote his answer to "what's something we would never know by looking at you?" Xander said, quote, "I could spend hours discussing the genius of Richard Serra's commission for the New York City IRS building, or how Mandarin enables the mind to think more creatively, or the lab I just finished on rendering an image of the Crab Nebula using Doppler shift and Kepler's third law, or an algorithm for my latest app's feed widget, or the golden warmth of the sun as it crests the horizon on a cold morning in Rocky Mountain National Park, or meandering through the crowded bazaars of Western China. I want to live 1,000 lives before mine is over." Yeah, pre-merge. The Ream Daily Award for most likely to have mega mom energy goes to 47-year-old teacher Tiffany Seeley. Yeah, Tiffany's got some big Ream energy. I mean, right off the bat, one of her words to describe herself is loud, and her pet peeve is being wrong. Sound like anyone we know? Tiffany's relationship with Survivor is actually really interesting. Her husband proposed to her while they were eating ribs and watching Survivor. I personally can't think of a more romantic setting. Per Tiffany, this was about 12 years ago, putting their proposal during Survivor Tocantins or Survivor Samoa. And, you know, I'm just gonna guess that her husband proposed to her exactly at the same time that Mike Barassi said he's wearing Milk-Bone underwear.
Tonight, we all realize that this is a dog-eat-dog game and we're all wearing Milk-Bone underwear, so...
Tiffany's got a lot more going for her than a barbecue sauce-covered wedding ring, though. At age 32, she became one of the youngest people to preemptively have her ovaries removed, essentially pre-viving cancer, and she's a teacher on a tribe with 2 of the youngest people on the season, which actually might benefit her if she can manifest that teacher/mom energy into a connection instead of an irritation. And as we all know, teachers are always connected with the youths. Moving on to our final tribe, the Green Ua tribe, we're handing out the J Starrett Award for most likely to have no clue what's going on to 20-year-old college student JD Robinson. First of all, props to JD for not only shouting out Fabio as someone he'd like to emulate, but calling him a great Survivor winner. I don't even know if Fabio would call himself a great Survivor winner. And while I'd love for JD to pee in the pool and go all the way to the end, I think there's another Survivor winner he's more likely to emulate.
Chris, tribe spoken. Time for you to go.
I think JD's a likable, super authentic guy. He's like Wu 2, Electric Boogaloo. But I think his age is going to be a big issue in connecting with some of the older castaways who just have more life experience. A lot of his interviews are about his academic accomplishments, or being a state track champion, or his ability to be popular in high school. I mean, those are all cool things, but they're very much things that only matter when you're 20 years old. I sense a lot of the naivete of youth in JD, and I'm just not really seeing him ever getting his footing in the game. The Elaine Stott Award for most likely to go shockingly far is going to Genie Chen, a 46-year-old grocery clerk. So at first glance, I think it's pretty easy to write Genie off as someone who might struggle out of the gate a little bit. But she's got such a positive, non-obnoxious energy, don't make me eat those words, Genie, that I think she's going to be around for a while. I worked in a grocery store for several years, and Genie reminds me of so many of the great people I worked with. Positive energy, funny but not overbearing, and willing to commiserate with you when you want to complain about your bad hours or dumb managers. I don't know, this might be a bold take, but I just don't think she's in for an early exit at all, unless she completely botches a challenge or just comes out of the gate way too strong. Plus, you gotta admire a 46-year-old woman who says her greatest accomplishment in life is winning the Hustle Award at basketball camp when she was 15. Queen of peaking in high school. The Kim Spradlin Award for most likely to just look like a great Survivor player goes to Ricard Foyer, a 31-year-old flight attendant. So obviously I'm gonna stan Ricard because he's a fellow Washingtonian, but I mean, this guy seems almost engineered in a lab to be good at Survivor. We should rename him to Him Spradlin or something. He's charming, athletic, level-headed, authentic. Something will have to go horribly, horribly wrong for Ricard to not at least make the merge. The way he talks about his life story and his husband and being deaf in one ear just draws you in. He's so naturally magnetic. Of anyone in this cast, he's the one that jumps off the page most to me as an obvious endgamer. And if that's happening just via a few photos and text on the page, I imagine his fellow castaways will, at some point, catch on as well. Not my winner pick, but given all this, I'd be surprised if he's not going really, really far, potentially Final Four. Plus, ponytails have a well-established history of deep runs in this game. The Purple Kelly Award for most likely to be completely invisible goes to Sarah Wilson, a 24-year-old healthcare consultant. Someone get this girl a purple swimsuit. Sarah wants to play an under-the-radar game. Whoa, shocker. But right away, I'm afraid she'll go so under the radar that she'll end up with 8 confessionals across 12 episodes or something. In a season full of players who've been waiting 18 months to play, chomping at the bit to start wheeling and dealing, we've then got Sarah, who wants to blend into the scenery. That's a good strategy for getting far. I'll actually be a little surprised if she doesn't make the merge, but it's not a strategy for getting screen time. Still, I like a lot of the qualities Sarah's going to bring. She's obviously really intelligent, went to MIT, and she's a competitive swimmer and water polo player, so I'm guessing she'll be good in the challenges. If she plays as low-key as she says, she's gonna go decently far, but I'm not certain we'll see a whole lot of her. 8 confessionals, 3 of which are in her boot episode. The Tai Trang Award for most likely to be inhumanly wholesome goes to Brad Reese, 49-year-old cattle rancher, and our first contestant ever from Wyoming. When I first saw the cast, I was pretty down on this guy. I wasn't sure he was going to be able to fit in. But after reading interviews, Brad's probably had the biggest rise in stock for me of anyone. He's obviously going to be a workhorse around camp. I mean, he's a Wyoming rancher. But I think he's also going to be a pretty savvy social player, too. He just comes off as incredibly genuine and charming, and his smile is incredible. He's got a really adventurous spirit, and I think if his work ethic doesn't buy him time in the early game, his crazy stories about getting bitten by a snake or almost getting blown up by a propane tank will. You know, just normal Wyoming stuff. Brad comes off as really real. He's got a great personality, and I think we're in for a deep run from Brad. He might not get a ton of screen time against some of the more bombastic personalities, but he'll be a kind, calming presence throughout the season. The Sandra Diaz-Twine Award for most likely to win it all goes to 34-year-old pastor Shantel Smith. Regardless of where she places, Shantel has an amazing story. Homeless as a child, affiliated with a gang, she actually found comfort in Jeff telling players to dig deep. Like that really spoke to her soul and inspired her to work hard to create a better life for herself. Presumably, she also took all those other propstisms to heart too. I've heard she puts all the fixins on her burgers and tacos. I really get the impression she's going to easily connect with people. I mean, that is like half of a pastor's job, but also be able to read them well enough to know when she's being played. She's also already talking about jury management pre-game, which is a crucially underrated superpower in Survivor. Shantel gives me mad winner vibes, but not really obvious winner vibes like Ricard. And I think that will play into her hand perfectly in the game. Plus, she's got a strategic side too. She's already scoping out the island for landmarks that idols might be hidden at to look for when there's, quote, some kind of distraction, like everybody's throwing up or they've got diarrhea. Well, I'm not sure where all that diarrhea is coming from, but okay. I guess poisoning everyone on day 3 is one way to get to the end. Got nothing else for ya. To give me the award for most likely to be your most watched YouTube channel, like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.